Hello and welcome to Maxim Foods Inside Track. I hope you've been keeping well. Another interesting fortnight in dairy since we last spoke. Fundamentals are still the same as they have been for the last 3 to 6 months. Global shortage in supply, demand still strong, and then shipping or supply chain issues globally helping keeping pricing quite buoyant. We'll delve into the commodities now and have a look at each one. Starting off with full cream milk powder. So since its very bullish run since December of last year, we've seen the first sort of negative result on GDT. This is by no means a correction. It's more of a settling in pricing. Demand in North Asia was still very strong. The region where it did drift off a bit was North Africa and the Middle East. So their participation was down, which would be a sign that these record prices have burnt off a bit of demand. Milk flow out of New Zealand did improve over February. We're still waiting on those results next week. However, after quite a disastrous sort of December, January for New Zealand, milk has recovered slightly, which has improved market tone. So all in all, it's still a bullish sentiment with milk down in New Zealand and coming off for the rest of their season until August. So we should see quite firm pricing in the next 3 months. Moving across to skim milk powder. So skim milk powder demand remains very buoyant globally. Interesting, last night we saw a higher EU participation in skim milk powder and higher demand for New Zealand product. So just goes to show that supply is dwindling out of the EU and they're sucking up some of that volume along with obviously the major participants of North Asia. So yeah, a short to medium term outlook on skim is still largely buoyant as New Zealand have less and less supply until new season. Having a look at butterfat. So yeah, once again, same fundamentals of skim. Demand globally is quite high. We saw the EU participation, which in GDT last night was up, which is a bit of an irregularity. So obviously EU shortage and supply, US hard to get product out of, and Australia and New Zealand supply dwindling as well. So all the hallmarks of a buoyant market in the short to medium term. Although we saw a little dip on GDT last night, it was by no means a correction, so we will see these higher pricing coming into the new season. Having a look at cheese, so Australia and New Zealand cheese short in supply, record pricing. EU demand has steadied a little bit for EU cheese, however the supply is not so great, so that sort of balances out that market. And things in the US coming into spring, the US market, domestic market is starting to gain a bit of traction. Obviously hard to get product out of the US, so yeah, once again, not sounding like a broken record, but pricing will remain buoyant on cheese coming into the new season in New Zealand. Finishing off with whey powder, so on non-hydro or sweet whey powder, demand still quite buoyant, supply improving a little bit in some regions, however, yeah, the demand certainly balances that out. So pricing has remained fairly buoyant. In the protein side of things, WPC availability has improved slightly out of the US. However, pricing wise for protein, it is still at record levels. WPI, on the other hand, is still very hard to get your hands on. A real global shortage of WPI as demand for that high-end sort of nutrition market is really buoyant. So yeah, hard to get your hands on the WPI side of things. WPC improving a little bit, but all round, once again, a buoyant tone. So in summary, the supply fundamentals still lend itself to a firm market across all the commodities. Demand may have eased or burnt off a little bit at these record high prices, which is evident of last GDT. However, we still see no real fundamental reason for the market to come back. You know, supply tight and demand strong. So I hope you have a great fortnight, and we'll see you again soon.